So this lecture is on middle ear cavity and auditory tube. So if you see competencies which are listed for this topic, so describe and demonstrate the boundaries, contents, relations, functional, anatomy of middle ear and auditory tube. Explain anatomical basis of otitis externa and otitis media, and explain anatomical basis of myringotomy. So we'll begin with middle ear. So the flow of discussion will be like this. So we'll cover middle ear under these headings: subdivisions, boundaries, contents, blood supply, nerve supply, the details of mastoid antrum, like location and what are boundaries of mastoid antrum, auditory tube, parts of auditory tube, relations of auditory tube, and the muscles which are attached to auditory tube, and then applied anatomy of middle ear as well as applied anatomy of auditory tube, and then we'll have a look at the clinical tests which are available for hearing acuity, testing hearing acuity. So these are the subdivisions of middle ear: external ear, external ear, middle ear, and internal ear. What is function of external ear? Yes? What is function of external ear? Collection and yes, so collection and conduction is function of external ear. What about middle ear? Amplification, yes, amplification of the force of sound vibrations. Okay, and what about internal ear? Yes? So what happens? Okay, what happens to the sound energy? It is converted into electrical potential, and that's how the nerves will be able to transmit impulses towards the higher center. So the nuclei of vestibular cochlear nerve. So vestibular nuclei and cochlear nuclei. There are how many vestibular nuclei and cochlear? Yes. So these are subdivisions, and if you see this part, this is the middle ear. So external ear, this is internal ear, and this is middle ear. So if you see location of middle ear and external ear, they are contained within which bone? Which bone it is? Which part of temporal bone? Petrous part of the temporal bone, correct. Now if we see middle ear, this is the region of middle ear. So here is the lateral aspect, this is medial aspect, this is superior and inferior. So here you can see there are some structures which are present within middle ear. If you take section of middle ear, coronal section like this, so it resembles section of a RBC, red blood cell. So it is compressed in the middle part, wide in the upper and lower parts. Okay. But if you take section which is parallel to long axis of the petromastoid bone, it resembles a pistil. So here you can see the nozzle being represented by auditory tube, the body is represented by tympanic cavity, and the handle is represented by mastoid antrum and mastoid process containing mastoid air cells. Okay, so why this is important? You should know the orientation, how it is placed inside petrous part of the temporal bone. So here we can see how it is seen in coronal section. Okay. So if you see diameters of this middle ear, anteroposterior diameter and vertical diameter of middle ear cavity is near about 15 millimeters. But if you see the transverse diameter, it varies in upper part, middle part and lower part. So which part is the narrowest part of the middle ear? Middle part. Okay, so here you can see 2 millimeters. In the upper part it is 6 millimeter and in the lower part it is 4 millimeters in diameter. Now let us see subdivision of this middle ear cavity or tympanic cavity. So this is middle ear cavity and this is lateral aspect, this is medial aspect. This thin membrane which is seen along lateral aspect of the middle ear cavity is called as tympanic membrane. Okay. So based on location of tympanic membrane, the middle ear cavity is divided into three parts. The area of middle ear cavity that lies above the level of tympanic membrane is called as epitympanum. The part that lies opposite tympanic membrane is called as mesotympanum, and the part that lies below the level of tympanic membrane is called as hypotympanum. Okay, so epitympanum, mesotympanum and hypotympanum. Now let us start with the boundaries of middle ear cavity. These are very important boundaries. So most of the times you will get case-based question in SAQ on one of the boundary of middle ear cavity because of its close proximity to important structures. So let us see which important structures are present along walls of the middle ear cavity. So it resembles a matchbox which has 6 walls. So which 6 walls? There is roof, there is floor, there is medial wall, lateral wall, anterior and posterior wall. Okay. So we'll begin with roof of the middle ear cavity. Can anyone tell me which is the bone forming roof of middle ear cavity? Which part of temporal bone? The entire area is located within temporal bone. Petrous part of temporal bone. So what is present in the roof of middle ear cavity? There is thin plate of bone which is part of petrous part of the temporal bone. It is called as tegmen tympani. Yes, correct. So remember this name, tegmen tympani is the thin plate of bone which is part of petrous temporal bone. It forms roof of this middle ear cavity. Are there any important structures related along roof of this roof of the middle ear cavity or tegmen tympani? Do you remember? While studying middle ear fossa, you must have but you must have learned these structures. There are 2 nerves passing along roof. Which 2 nerves? Facial nerve, no. Cauda tympani, no. 2 petrosal nerves. Which 2 petrosal nerves? Greater petrosal nerve and lesser petrosal nerve. So these 2 petrosal nerves are present in the roof of middle ear cavity. So it is formed by petrous temporal and this pierced by 2 petrosal nerves. Okay. So here you can see this is the roof which is formed by thin plate of the bone which is called as tegmen tympani, and this is the middle ear cavity. So here you can see there are 2 nerves, greater petrosal nerve and lesser petrosal nerve passing through piercing the roof of middle ear cavity. Now coming to floor. The floor of middle ear cavity is formed by thin plate of bone separating it from underlying structure which is known as superior bulb of internal jugular vein. Okay, so the sigmoid sinuses on either side, they pass through jugular foramen and they continue below as internal jugular veins, correct? Which sinus continues? To the sigmoid sinus, yes. And if you remember, this internal jugular vein, near its origin or formation, presents one dilatation. This dilatation is called as superior bulb of internal jugular vein, and the bone presents one slight depression to accommodate this superior bulb of the internal jugular vein. So you can imagine there is superior bulb of internal jugular vein, and what lies above the superior bulb of internal jugular vein is the middle ear cavity. So it is present along floor of middle ear cavity. So try to remember these structures. At the end of this lecture, while discussing applied anatomy, I will ask you structures and try to correlate the structures involved in case of the infection of middle ear. Okay. Along with this superior bulb of internal jugular vein, there is one more structure. There is tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. So if you remember the secretomotor pathway for parotid gland, okay, so starting with inferior salivatory nucleus, then glossopharyngeal nerve. Then how this glossopharyngeal nerve enters in the formation of this tympanic plexus? Via its tympanic branch, other name is Jacobson's nerve. Yes, correct. So here we can see this is the nerve entering middle ear cavity, and then it will be running over medial wall of this middle ear cavity to form what is called as tympanic plexus. And we have seen in the roof there is one nerve. So can you link this pathway now? Tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. On medial wall there will be tympanic plexus. And from tympanic plexus what is coming out? Lesser petrosal nerve. And where it is living? Through the roof. And then entering which region? Trace lesser petrosal nerve. It is present in middle cranial fossa, the segment tympani. Then it leaves middle cranial fossa through which foramen? It enters which region? Yes, foramen ovale is correct. It enters which region? It has to enter some region to supply parotid gland, correct? So which region it is? Temporal fossa? Infratemporal fossa, correct. So this lesser petrosal nerve leaves middle cranial fossa through infratemporal fossa, and what happens to this lesser petrosal nerve then? It relays into otic ganglion, and from otic ganglion, postganglionic fibers will be innervating parotid gland. So remember this tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve, which is present along floor of middle ear cavity along with the superior bulb of internal jugular vein. Now let us see anterior wall. So this is anterior wall of the middle ear cavity. Here you can see there are important three structures. In the lower half of the middle ear cavity, anterior wall, there is bony canal for passage of this artery. Which artery it is? Internal carotid artery. An internal carotid artery is covered by a plexus of the nerves, sympathetic plexus coming from superior cervical ganglion. Okay. So these are the sympathetic fibers covering this internal carotid artery forming sympathetic plexus. So it is present in lower half of the anterior wall of the middle ear cavity. What is present in upper half? There are two bony canals. The upper bony canal is for this muscle, tensor tympani muscle, and the lower bony canal is for pharyngotympanic tube. Other name is Eustachian tube or auditory tube. Okay, so anterior wall, let us revise. In upper half there are two structures. Bony canals for, the upper one is for tensor tympani muscle, which is muscle of middle ear, and the lower bony canal is for pharyngotympanic tube or auditory tube. Okay. The lower half of the anterior wall is related to bony canal. So which bony canal it is basically? Which artery is passing? Internal carotid artery. So which bony canal it is? Carotid canal. So you can say posterior wall of the carotid canal is forming anterior boundary of the middle ear cavity in lower half. Okay. So from this sympathetic plexus, there are some nerves piercing anterior wall and entering formation of tympanic plexus along with tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve. So which nerves are this arising from sympathetic plexus? These are called as caroticotympanic nerves. Superior and inferior caroticotympanic nerves. Okay, clear? Artery, two bony canals. Upper bony canal is for muscle. Lower bony canal is the bony part of the auditory tube. And also the anterior wall is pierced by branches from sympathetic plexus covering this internal carotid artery, and the nerves are called as superior and inferior caroticotympanic nerves. Okay, so what is superior caroticotympanic nerve? It is coming from sympathetic plexus surrounding internal carotid artery. Okay, so this is about anterior wall. So here you can see this is the internal carotid artery. This is the carotid canal opening. And here you can see posterior wall of the carotid canal, which is forming anterior boundary of the middle ear cavity. And the nerves are seen entering, piercing this wall and entering tympanic plexus. So along with nerves, there will be vessels also, which are branches of internal carotid artery. What about posterior wall? So can you see this wall? This is posterior wall of the middle ear cavity or tympanic cavity. In the upper part, there is one adductus. Adductus means you have learnt one adductus in abdomen. Okay, so which was that adductus? Connecting greater sac with lesser sac. Epiploic foramen. Adductus to lesser sac. Adductus to lesser sac, right? Other name was adductus to lesser sac. So here the main cavity is tympanic cavity. Its extension posteriorly is called as mastoid antrum. So the area of communication between tympanic cavity and mastoid antrum is called as adductus to mastoid antrum, that lies in the upper part of posterior wall of the tympanic cavity. Okay, so this is one opening, you can say, one important structure seen. And in the lower part here you can see the vertical bony canal that carries facial nerve. Facial nerve, as it passes in relation to middle ear, it is related to two walls of middle ear. Initially along medial wall and then along posterior wall. The part related to medial wall is horizontal. The part related to posterior wall is vertical. Okay, so here we can see the vertical part of the facial nerve running within bony canal. It is not exposed to middle ear cavity. There is bony canal covering this facial nerve. There is this triangular projection of bone called as pyramidal eminence. Okay, which contains pyramidalis muscle. So pyramidalis muscle is seen running within pyramidal eminence and it is inserted on the stapes bone, which is present inside the middle ear cavity. Okay. Along with this pyramidal eminence, here you can see one nerve coming from facial nerve. Which is this nerve? Chorda tympani nerve. So these are the structures present in posterior wall of the middle ear cavity. Can we revise? In the upper part, there is adductus to mastoid antrum. Then there is pyramidal eminence, which contains pyramidalis muscle, stapedius muscle, which is inserted on stapes. And below this pyramidal eminence, there is one nerve coming from the facial nerve. The name of this nerve is chorda tympani nerve. And then what happens to this bony canal through which facial nerve is passing? Then it opens in between the mastoid process and styloid process along norma basalis. The opening is called as stylomastoid foramen. Yes, correct. So this is about posterior wall of the middle ear cavity. Now coming to medial wall of the middle ear cavity. Okay, before that, yes. Antrum is extension of tympanic cavity posteriorly. So you can say tympanic cavity is extending posteriorly along the mastoid process, upper part of the mastoid process. That extension is called as mastoid antrum. Okay, and along this mastoid antrum, in the floor of mastoid antrum, there are openings of mastoid air cells which are present inside mastoid process. Okay, so along floor there are openings of mastoid air cells and it is basically extension of the, here also you can see, na? This is tympanic cavity and it is extending posteriorly as mastoid antrum. This part is mastoid antrum and these are the mastoid air cells which are opening along floor of this mastoid antrum. Fossa incudis is the depression which is present along posterior part and it provides attachment to one ligament which suspends the malleus by its short process. Okay. So one of the ear ossicle present inside tympanic cavity is malleus. So fossa incudis is this structure or depression which is present. So posterior wall, the bony canal, this is along medial wall, this is the posterior wall of the middle ear cavity. Here we can see the bony canal for facial nerve. This is the pyramidal eminence containing stapedius muscle. Nerve to stapedius will be given and in the lower part there will be chorda tympani nerve. Now what about medial wall of the middle ear cavity or tympanic cavity? So what you can see in this book picture, can you see rounded elevation? So this rounded elevation is produced by basal turn of cochlea, part of internal ear. Okay. It is called as promontory. Yes. So basal turn of cochlea produces, yes, what is your roll number? Leave the class. So this is the elevation seen along medial wall called as promontory produced by basal turn of cochlea. And what is present over promontory? Tympanic plexus. Can you tell me nerves forming tympanic plexus? Tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve and which nerves? Cortico nahi. Superior and inferior carotico-tympanic nerves. Superior and inferior carotico-tympanic nerves. Okay. So this is one feature. Can you see there is one opening just above and behind the promontory? There is oval window and below and behind the promontory there is round window. So other name for oval window is fenestra vestibuli and other name for round window is fenestra cochlea. Fenestra cochlea, fenestra vestibuli. So in recent state or in living subjects, this oval window is closed by? Is there any structure covering this oval window in case of foot plate of stapes? And what about this round window? It is covered by trilaminar secondary tympanic membrane. So we have seen primary tympanic membrane is present in lateral wall of the middle ear cavity, and secondary tympanic membrane is present covering the round window which is present along medial wall of the tympanic cavity, right? What is seen in the upper part? Can you see this part? Yes, so oblique part of the facial canal, or you can say horizontal part of the facial canal, is present in upper part of the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Okay, so these are the structures present along medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Anteriorly, can you see along medial wall there is one bony projection, bony spur. So in between two bony canals there is one bony spur present, and it extends posteriorly up to the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. This bony spur is called as processus trochleariformis. So this processus trochleariformis is the area along which tendon of tensor tympani muscle hooks around, and then it is inserted on malleus bone. Okay, handle of malleus. Okay, so extension of processus trochleariformis is also seen along medial wall, and in the uppermost part you can see even the prominence of, yes, semicircular canal is also seen. So these are the structures present along medial wall of the middle ear cavity. So promontory, fenestra vestibuli or ovalis, fenestra cochleae or rotunda. Simple names are oval window and round window. You can write this also. You will get full marks. The oblique part of the facial nerve and processus trochleariformis, along which the tendon of tensor tympani muscle winds around, and then it is inserted on the handle of malleus. So this is medial wall. Now what is remaining is lateral wall of the middle ear cavity. Before that, we'll see this book picture. Here you can see this is the promontory, oval window, round window, and how this lesser petrosal nerve is going up. This is tympanic plexus. Caroticotympanic nerves are seen piercing anterior wall. This is tympanic branch. Okay, and this is the oblique part of the facial canal. Don't talk. What are you doing? You can discuss it later also in your lunch break. Okay, don't disturb me. So lateral wall is formed by which important structure? There is tympanic membrane. Okay. So if you see structure of this tympanic membrane, even your textbooks must be describing this. It is consisting of 3 layers. Inside or towards tympanic cavity there is mucous layer, then there is fibrous layer, and outermost, which is facing towards external acoustic meatus, is the cuticular layer. Cuticular layer. So skin, you can say skin, then fibrous layer and the mucous layer. Okay, 3 layers. So in between mucous layer and fibrous layer of the tympanic membrane, there lies this part of the malleus. Can you see this part? This is handle of malleus. Okay, handle of malleus is present between mucous layer and fibrous layer. And you can see medial to handle of malleus, there is one nerve seen passing from posterior to anterior side. Which is this nerve? This is chorda tympani nerve. So for passage of this chorda tympani nerve, there are 2 small openings. This is posterior canaliculus for chorda tympani nerve, and this is the anterior canaliculus for chorda tympani nerve. Okay. Because of the arrangement of the, you can say, fibrous layer, the tympanic membrane is divided into 2 parts. The tympanic sulcus, the medialmost part of the external acoustic meatus, is the tympanic sulcus, along which there is attachment of tympanic membrane. So along this attachment of tympanic sulcus, the upper part is deficient. That's why the tympanic membrane is divided into 2 parts. The upper part is lax and the lower part is tense. Upper part is called as pars flaccida and lower part is called as pars tensa. Okay, so pars flaccida and pars tensa are the 2 parts of tympanic membrane which are present because of the absence of upper attachment of the tympanic membrane. Okay. So extending from handle of malleus, you can see anteriorly there is anterior malleolar fold. Similarly, there is posterior malleolar fold. So at the junction of pars flaccida and pars tensa, there are these two malleolar folds existing. Anterior malleolar fold and posterior malleolar fold. So this is about lateral wall of the middle ear cavity. Mainly tympanic membrane consisting of 3 layers and 2 canaliculi for passage of chorda tympani from posterior to anterior. So that's how it will be entering the infratemporal fossa by passing through this anterior canaliculus. Anterior canaliculus is nothing but medial end of the petrotympanic suture which is present along base of skull. So it is in close proximity of the infratemporal fossa. So that's how it hands over fibers to which nerve? We are talking about which nerve? Chorda tympani nerve. So it hands over fibers to lingual nerve in the infratemporal fossa. So if you see using otoscope how this tympanic membrane appears. So it is pearly white in color and you can see the structures which are present inside very clearly. This long process which is seen inside the tympanic membrane, this is the outer layer of the tympanic membrane, that is skin. Okay, hairless stratified squamous epithelium. So here you can see handle of malleus and running posteriorly parallel to handle of malleus is the long process of the incus. So when you insert otoscope inside external acoustic meatus, the light which is present at the end of that otoscope, it will fall in this part. It is called as cone of light. So antero-inferior quadrant of tympanic membrane shows presence of cone of light when you do otoscopic examination. Okay, why it is important? If you want to perform certain procedures on tympanic membrane, this cone of light is important. Once you see this cone of light, it will help you identify normal status of the tympanic membrane. If it is seen bulging, if the cone of light is absent, there could be pathology which is present inside tympanic cavity. Okay. So this is the otoscopic view. Here you can see thin tympanic membrane. Here the handle of malleus is seen and this is the cone of light which is projected along antero-inferior quadrant of the tympanic membrane. This is the basic structure which is seen after removing tympanic membrane. Okay, so structure we have seen, there are recesses which are present. Recesses means the space which is present inside tympanic membrane because of the arrangement of different layers. So we have seen there is anterior malleolar fold, posterior malleolar fold. So recesses are also present along anterior malleolar fold called as anterior recess. The one present along posterior malleolar fold is called as posterior recess, and the one which is present above the lateral process of malleus is called as Brusach's space or recess. So there are 3 recesses created to tympanic membrane. So if there is long question on middle ear cavity, then you have to write all these things, including location of middle ear cavity, all the boundaries. Not only mentioning boundaries, you have to describe boundaries also. Okay, so tympanic membrane will be part of this boundaries of the tympanic cavity. So which branches supply middle ear cavity? If you remember the maxillary artery, first part of maxillary artery gives deep auricular artery and anterior tympanic artery. So along with these 2 branches of maxillary artery, there is stylomastoid branch coming from the posterior auricular artery. And if you see venous drainage, the outer layer which is equivalent to skin, it drains into external jugular vein because the posterior auricular, and the inner layer will be draining into transverse sinus okay, and the pterygoid venous plexus. So according to proximity of veins or venous plexuses, the venous drainage will be seen. The nerve supply of tympanic membrane. So there are 3 layers, right? Middle one is fibrous, inner one is mucus and outer one is skin. So the outer cuticular layer will have nerve supply similar to external acoustic meatus, external auditory meatus. So the upper and anterior part, roof and anterior wall of external acoustic meatus is innervated by branches from auriculotemporal nerve. The floor and posterior wall of external auditory meatus is innervated by auricular branch of vagus, which is also called as Arnold's nerve or Alderman's nerve. Okay. So this is the same nerves will supply the respective areas of the tympanic membrane also. So this is about outer layer. What about inner layer? Inner layer will be having innervation similar to mucous membrane of the tympanic cavity. So it is supplied by branch from the glossopharyngeal nerve via tympanic plexus. Okay. Is it clear? The blood supply and nerve supply. Can anyone revise blood supply of the tympanic cavity? Which arteries? Deep auricular, anterior tympanic and stylomastoid branch of the posterior auricular. Venous drainage is into external jugular vein, the outer part, tympanic membrane. Yes. No. Outer layer of the tympanic membrane drains into external jugular vein, and the inner layers will be draining into transverse sinus and the pterygoid plexus. Okay. And nerve supply we have already seen. Now coming to contents of middle ear cavity. So what is content of middle ear cavity? What do you think? What is genuine content of middle ear cavity? The middle ear cavity is covered by mucous membrane except along the ossicles, along the nerves, along the vessels. So what is content of middle ear cavity? Do you understand this thing? The mucous lining excludes nerves, vessels and the ear ossicles. So what is present inside tympanic cavity then? Only air. So genuine content of tympanic cavity is air which is present inside mucous lining. Okay. All other structures which are present listed here, these are outside mucous lining of the tympanic cavity, which includes the ear ossicles, muscles and nerves and arteries. Even the muscles, they are present outside the mucous lining of the middle ear cavity. So you can enlist these structures, but you have to mention they lie outside mucous lining of the tympanic cavity. Okay. So there are three ear ossicles, as you all know, malleus, incus and stapes. So here you can see parts of malleus, this is incus and this is stapes. So malleus consists of head, there is neck, there is anterior process, lateral process and the handle. The incus presents with body, short process and long process. Whereas stapes presents with the head, neck, two limbs, anterior and posterior, and this is called as base of stapes or footplate of stapes. So where it is related? Do you remember? The medial wall. It covers which window? Oval window. Fenestra? Vestibuli. Yes, correct. So which joints are present between these three bones? Do you know which joints exist between these three bones? In between which two bones? There is malleus, incus and stapes. So there is one joint between malleus and incus and there is another joint between incus and stapes. Okay. So which joint is present between malleus and incus? It is saddle variety of synovial joint, whereas in between the incus and stapes, there is ball and socket. So where is ball? So this part, the long limb of the incus presents one lentiform nodule. Lentiform nodule which resembles head, it articulates with the head of stapes. So that's how it forms the ball and socket variety of the synovial joint. So there are two joints present inside middle ear cavity. One is saddle and second is ball and socket. So what is function of these joints which are present? So how they help in increasing amplification? Yes? Okay. Okay. So what is role of joints? Amplification by keeping this tympanic membrane and then via ear ossicles it will be traveling towards oval window, fenestra vestibula, and then then what happens? Oval window tak gaya, आगे क्या? Yes? What happens after oval window? What lies inside oval window? Medial to oval window. Yes? The bony labyrinth containing internal ear different parts, and inside this membranous and bony labyrinth there is perilymph. So this perilymph will be set into vibrations, and that will be reflected immediately in the form of what will happen with the round window which is present below. It will be pushed outwards with the vibrations of this perilymph. Okay. So these two joints are present in the middle ear cavity, and you can see size of these ear ossicles. Your last dissection will be on this middle ear cavity, where you will be dissecting either on total 3 or 4 cadavers during dissection, last dissection. So you can see this ear ossicles, last dissection, not today's dissection. Okay. So this is the mechanism of movement of the ear ossicles. So vibration, tympanic membrane, as he correctly mentioned, the handle of malleus will move medially and the body of incus is locked at incudo-malleolar joint, and then the base of stapes moves inward at the fenestra vestibula, and perilymph will be set into vibrations and the secondary tympanic membrane will bulge up. Okay. So what is axis for rotation of malleus and incus? It passes along this posterior ligament of the incus, which is present along fossa incudis. Okay, and passes anteriorly. Here you can see where the anterior process of malleus is present, which gives attachment to anterior ligament of malleus, connecting it with the which bone? It is remnant of first pharyngeal arch, anterior ligament of malleus, and sphenomandibular ligament. So basically it is one continuous structure divided into two parts because of the one process. Which is that process? Spine of sphenoid. So from anterior process of malleus to spine of sphenoid is the anterior ligament of malleus, and then there is sphenomandibular ligament. So what are functions of these two muscles? Tensor tympani and the stapedius. So tensor tympani is derivative of which arch? First arch. So it is supplied by mandibular nerve, and stapedius is second. So it is supplied by facial nerve. So as this tensor tympani is inserted on handle of malleus, so whenever it contracts, it draws handle of malleus medially and it tightens this tympanic membrane. And where this stapedius muscle is inserted, can you see this muscle, small muscle? Where it is inserted? Along posterior part of the neck of stapes. Okay. So it prevents damage that occurs due to loud sound. So whenever there is involvement of nerve to stapedius, the complaint with which patient presents is hyperacusis. Okay. So stapedius, it draws stapes laterally. So this is the stapedius muscle. Blood supply, different branches including this stylomastoid branch, anterior tympanic, the petrol branches from middle meningeal artery, and the ascending pharyngeal and artery of pterygoid canal. Artery of pterygoid canal is branch of third part of maxillary artery. Yes, third part. Yes, correct. And there are also tympanic branches of the internal carotid artery, carotico-tympanic branches. So can you tell me nerves related to middle ear cavity? Yes, quickly we'll revise nerves related to middle ear cavity. Tell me boundary first and then mention the nerve related to it. Posterior wall, vertical part of the facial nerve and two branches. Nerve to stapedius and chorda tympani nerve. Yes. Then next wall. Medial wall related to which nerve? Horizontal or oblique part of the facial nerve and tympanic plexus and the formative nerves for tympanic plexus. Lesser petrosal nerve which emerges from tympanic plexus and tympanic branch of the and superior and inferior carotico-tympanic nerves. Okay. What about anterior wall? The same carotico-tympanic nerves. And exit of chorda tympani is along lateral wall. It is along lateral wall. Okay. What about inferior wall? Yes. Which nerve is related to inferior wall? Floor. Tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve. So if you see all walls of the boundaries of the tympanic cavity, there is one or other nerve which is related to this tympanic cavity, boundaries of tympanic cavity. Okay. So these are the nerves related. So as I have already mentioned, mastoid antrum is the extension of tympanic cavity. Here you can see this is the mastoid, the tympanic cavity, and this posteriorly extending as the mastoid antrum. Okay. And here you can see within mastoid process there are many mastoid air cells. These mastoid air cells, they open at the floor of the mastoid antrum. So what is the importance of this mastoid antrum? Why we need to study location of mastoid antrum and everything related to it? Surgical approach. Why you need to approach surgically? क्यों? लेकिन ENT surgeons why? Tympanic cavity is prone for infections. We'll cover this topic later, but because of the infections of tympanic cavity, what will happen? There are chances of infection of mastoid antrum. Mastoid antrum is deeply located area, so it is difficult to operate on mastoid antrum. That's why you need to have correct vision, anatomic location of the mastoid antrum, so that you can operate it surgical. Okay, so it is extension of tympanic cavity, that's why it is prone for infection. Okay, what is the age by which mastoid process is fully developed? 2 years. So that depends on the development of mastoid air cells. So as mastoid air cells develop inside mastoid process, there is full development of this mastoid process. Your row and the row sitting behind, Mohawk and your CR, batch CR, you are continuously discussing. Not during today's lecture, even during paper discussion and many other sessions I have noticed. This is not the way you sit inside class in front of your teachers. You sit outside class and attend some video which is unauthenticated and then answer in your viva. So this is mastoid antrum. So if you want to locate it externally, can you locate mastoid antrum externally? You have studied skull. Yes, suprameatal triangle. Other name is? What are boundaries of McEwan's triangle? Above there is supramastoid crest, which is continuation of inferior temporal line. Correct? Anteriorly there is posterior-superior margin of the external acoustic meatus, and posteriorly there is vertical tangent connecting these two structures. So if you see external aspect of ear, you will be able to see this Simba concha, this part, just above the opening of external auditory meatus. This part is the area which is used for localization of mastoid antrum. Okay, so in your living anatomy, you should be able to demonstrate the region of mastoid antrum by locating Simba concha. Okay, this is one important part. What are the boundaries of the mastoid antrum? Above is the same plate of the bone, tegment tympani. What is present along anterior wall? Upper part is connected to tympanic cavity by adductus to antrum, and the lower part is related to vertical bony canal for facial nerve. What is present behind posterior wall? The posterior wall of the mastoid antrum is related to the sigmoid sinus. Okay, posterior wall is related to sigmoid sinus. So, you might get case of chronic suppurative otitis media, infection of middle ear, which is chronic, affecting mastoid antrum, leading to mastoiditis, and simple mastoiditis can break the posterior wall and enter the sigmoid sinus. So that could be one of the cause for sigmoid sinus thrombosis. So that's why all walls of the middle ear cavity and mastoid antrum are very important. Infection is simple, but as there are thin plates of bones, if these thin plates of bones break, then there are chances of transmission of infection from middle ear cavity to adjoining areas. The lateral wall is formed by squamous part of the temporal bone, and medial wall there are this posterior semicircular canal and the lateral semicircular canal. So this is mastoid antrum. And the last part of this session is auditory tube, which is also called as Eustachian tube or pharyngotympanic tube. So what is length of auditory tube and what it connects? We have seen one opening. This is vague answer, middle ear cavity and pharynx. You should specify walls. Which wall of middle ear cavity? Anterior wall. Connected to which wall of pharynx? Pharynx has three parts, nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. So which wall of nasopharynx? Lateral wall of nasopharynx. So anterior wall of middle ear cavity to lateral wall of nasopharynx is the extent of this auditory tube. As the name suggests, pharyngotympanic tube. Okay. So the length of pharyngotympanic tube is near about 36 millimeters in case of adults, and the medial 2/3 is cartilaginous and lateral 1/3 is bony. So lateral 1/3 of this auditory tube is bony and medial 2/3 is cartilaginous. So from which region it is beginning? When I am talking about bony part, now you have to correlate things. We have seen walls of middle ear cavity. So from which region this bony part is starting? Bony part of auditory tube. Anterior wall. Upper bony canal is for tensor tympani. The lower bony canal is for auditory tube. So that is the area where this bony part of the auditory tube is beginning. So this is lateral 1/3 part. Okay, medial 2/3 part is present along sulcus tubae, which is present along norma basalis, and the sulcus tubae lodges fibrocartilaginous part of the auditory tube. Why it is called fibrocartilaginous part? Not only cartilaginous, because it consists of fibrous tissue also. So there are two laminae. If I am describing this left pharyngotympanic tube, it will be having these two laminae. There is medial lamina, there is lateral lamina, and below it is open. So the open part is covered by fibrous tissue. That's why it is fibrocartilaginous. And if you take cross section of the bony canal, it is transversely oval. If you take cross section of fibrocartilaginous part, it is triangular because of the two laminae, medial lamina, lateral lamina, and the fibrous layer connecting these lower ends of two laminae. Okay. So what is difference between auditory tube of the child and adult? So the direction of auditory tube differs. In case of adults, it is directed downwards, forwards and medially from bony to cartilaginous part. Okay. And in case of children, it is more horizontally placed. So that's why infections are common in children. Yes, so auditory tube in case of children is wide and horizontally placed. That's why infections from pharynx can reach the middle ear cavity via auditory tube easily in case of children. Okay, so this point is very important. Here you can see horizontally placed auditory tube, and this is the direction of auditory tube in case of adults. Okay. So two components, osseous or bony part, fibrocartilaginous part, 12 millimeters, 24 millimeters. Okay. So here you can see it is beginning at the anterior wall of the middle ear cavity, passing downwards, forwards and medially. So this is bony part and this is fibrocartilaginous part. So there is medial lamina, there is lateral lamina, this is medial lamina, this is lateral lamina, and the lower part will be covered by the fibrous layer. So here you can see this is the auditory tube, this is bony fibrocartilaginous part, and the junction between two is called as isthmus, because this is the narrowest part of the auditory tube. Okay, and what is this? Can you see this basal part of the skull? This is hard palate and this is the posterior part. So along this junction between petrous part of the temporal bone and greater wing of sphenoid, there is sulcus tubae, which lodges fibrocartilaginous part of the auditory tube. So this is one book picture which depicts relations of bony part of the auditory tube. So here you can see this is bony part of auditory tube. What is present above bony part of auditory tube? So what you can see here, the bony canal for tensor tympani muscle. Yes, what is present below? It is related to the carotid canal containing internal carotid artery. Okay, as it passes below, forwards and medially, here you can see two laminae of the auditory tube, fibrocartilaginous part. And see how the muscles are attached. Which muscle is this? Levator vellae palatini. And this is tensor vellae palatini. Okay. So muscles of soft palate, they are also attached to this auditory tube. So if you see cartilaginous part of the auditory tube, so cartilaginous part, as it passes down, it passes above superior constrictor muscle. The region is called as foramen of Morgagni. So it pierces buccopharyngeal fascia and then pharyngobasilar fascia, and then it is opening. The opening is seen. Where it is seen opening? It connects anterior wall of middle ear cavity with lateral wall of nasopharynx. So where is the opening seen? The other opening. Lateral wall of nasopharynx. So where it is exactly located? 1.25 centimeters behind and below the posterior end of inferior nasal concha. What is this concha? If you see lateral wall of nose, there are three turbinates, concave. The inferior nasal concha is a separate bone. So if you go 1.25 centimeters behind and below the inferior nasal concha, you will see opening of the auditory tube. This is called as pharyngeal opening of auditory tube. And if you have seen this specimen, you have not seen this specimen. So it is guarded in the upper and posterior part by mucous elevation because of the underlying lymphatic tissue. Tubal tonsils. So these are tubal tonsils protecting upper and posterior part of the auditory tube. Is there any use of knowing these tubal tonsils? Yes, it is part of Walde's ring. Any other use of tubal tonsils with respect to auditory tube? So if there is need to insufflate air inside auditory tube, then these tubal tonsils, they act as important landmark. If you see tubal tonsil, then you can easily pinpoint or you can locate the opening of the auditory tube and you can pass catheter so that you can introduce air inside middle ear cavity whenever required. Okay. So this is the opening along lateral wall of the nasopharynx. This is nasal cavity. These are three turbinates or nasal conchae. So as I have mentioned, 1.25 centimeters behind and below the inferior nasal concha is the opening of the pharyngeal opening of auditory tube. And this is the tubal tonsil above and behind. Part of Walde's ring. Okay. So what are the muscles arising from this cartilaginous part of the auditory tube, you can note down. From lateral lamina there is tensor veli palatini, and from medial lamina mainly there is levator veli palatini, tensor tympani and salpingopharyngeus muscle. Salpingopharyngeus is muscle of which muscle of pharynx? Circular muscle, longitudinal muscle. Longitudinal muscle. What is nerve supply of salpingopharyngeus? Yes? What is nerve supply of salpingopharyngeus? Pharyngeal plexus. What is nerve supply of stylopharyngeus? What is nerve supply of palatopharyngeus? Palatopharyngeus. Three longitudinal muscles of pharynx. Salpingo by pharyngeal plexus, you said. Stylopharyngeus by glossopharyngeal nerve, and palatopharyngeus by वेगस अलग से सप्लाई करता है palatopharyngeus को. Pharyngeal plexus only. Pharyngeal plexus only. All muscles of pharynx are supplied by pharyngeal plexus except stylopharyngeus. Okay, so these are the muscles attached to medial lamina of the auditory tube. So what are the factors that keep auditory tube in position? So there is processus tubarius, extension of bone from medial pterygoid plate. The fibrous lamina that supports fibrous tissue that suspends this auditory tube from the sulcus tubae, and it is sandwiched between these two muscles, tensor veli palatini and levator veli palatini. Blood supply, branches of middle meningeal artery, artery of the pterygoid canal, and meningeal branches of the external carotid artery. Pterygoid and pharyngeal plexus of veins is the venous drainage, and retropharyngeal group of lymph nodes, they will be draining the auditory tube. This is important. Nerve supply. The nerve supply of middle ear cavity. The mucous membrane of middle ear cavity is supplied by branches of glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay. So, because of this, the nerve supply of the auditory tube is by glossopharyngeal nerve via tympanic plexus except its pharyngeal end, which is supplied by pharyngeal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay, so this is the only exceptional area. What are functions of auditory tube? Why it is present? It equalizes pressure on which side? On sides of tympanic membrane. Yes, correct. So, outer atmospheric pressure and the pressure which is present inside tympanic cavity. What changes are there when you ascend in an aeroplane and when you descend rapidly? Is there any change that is occurring in tympanic membrane because of the pressure differences? What is that change? When you ascend in an aeroplane, what happens? The outer atmospheric pressure is less and the pressure inside tympanic cavity is more. So what happens? What you are supposed to do to avoid the condition? Yes? So which manual you follow? Health Silva manual. Yeah. Simple swallowing movements will open the pharyngeal opening of the auditory tube. So that will try to equalize pressure inside middle ear cavity and outside. Okay? And what happens when you descend rapidly? Pressure inside will be less and outside will be more. Yes. So these conditions you should know. So pressure towards middle ear cavity, and when you ascend, it will be bulging outside middle ear tympanic membrane. These are functions. So what is acute otitis media? Is inflammation of middle ear cavity. Acute condition. There could be chronic otitis media. Okay, so usually otitis media is followed by formation of pus because there is inflammation. Wherever there is inflammation, usually there is collection of pus. So what happens if there is collection of pus inside middle ear cavity? So depending upon amount of pus that is being collected inside middle ear cavity, there will be bulging of tympanic membrane. And if you don't remove that pus on time, then there are chances of rupture of tympanic membrane. So that will be along any part of the tympanic membrane. So the procedure which is done for drainage of pus in case of otitis media is called as myringotomy. And where it should be done? It should be done in posterior-inferior quadrant of the tympanic membrane. Antero-inferior, why we spare it? Because that will help you see different parts. The cone of light is the important landmark. What is present in upper part? The ear ossicles. There are muscles, ear ossicles. So to avoid damage to these structures, it is usually performed in posterior-inferior quadrant of the tympanic membrane. Myringotomy is the procedure for drainage of pus in case of otitis media. So one of the competency was explain anatomical basis of myringotomy. Okay, that you should know. Tympanoplasty. Why there is need for tympanoplasty? What do you think? Yes? So there is collection of pus inside middle ear cavity from long time, and the amount or quantity of pus has increased and it has ruptured tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane already rupture ho gaya. Then you have to repair the tympanic membrane. That repair surgical procedure is called as tympanoplasty. Okay, tympanoplasty. Like hernioplasty in repair of hernia. Okay. So applied anatomy of auditory tube, blockage of pharyngeal, because of the pharyngeal opening of the auditory tube, there could be blockage of the auditory tube. Okay. So what one can do in such cases? It will lead to inflammation of the tubal tonsil. It will be seen along inflammation of the tubal tonsil. So there will be disturbance of hearing, and it can be corrected by introduction of air through metal catheter. And that was the point that we were discussing. So tubal tonsils, they help in identification of this pharyngeal opening so that you can pass catheter inside the pharyngeal, nasopharyngeal part of the auditory tube. What are clinical tests for hearing? So deafness is the inability to hear. Okay. So there are two types of deafness, conductive deafness and sensory neural deafness. So conductive deafness is mainly because of the problem in conduction, which are because of the diseases of middle ear, or there could be different conditions are there, basically problems in bone conduction, inflammation of the middle ear, collection of pus could be there, ossification of the ear ossicles. There is one condition called as otosclerosis. So in that condition also there could be conductive deafness. And nerve deafness or sensory neural deafness is related to cochlear nerve. Lesions of cochlear nerve will lead to sensory neural. In case of old age, elderly people, the nerve deafness is usually sensory neural deafness. Okay. So otoscopic examination, audiometry is the procedure. The soundproof room is there and the patient is supposed to sit inside, and very different sound frequencies he is exposed to, and then the audibility of the sound is noted, and that's how the hearing aids are provided by doing audiometry. Okay. So otoscopic examination is simple procedure which is done to identify any pathological condition of the middle ear cavity, and these are the tests which are done for diagnosis of the different types of deafness. One is Rinne's test and second is Weber's test. Okay, so tuning fork is used, vibrating tuning fork. 256 Hertz is the usual one which is used for. So once you set it into vibrations, it is first kept over mastoid process, and once the sound is not audible through bone conduction, then it is put in front of the ear. So that will help you identify the conductive deafness. Okay. And in Weber's test, the vibrating tuning fork is kept over vertex of the patient, and depending on it is heard better in which ear, affected ear or normal ear. It will help you identify whether it is the disease of middle ear or the sensory neural deafness. If there is sensory neural deafness, it will be heard better in normal ear. If there is disease of middle ear like otosclerosis, where all the three ear ossicles are fused to each other. So in that case, affected ear will hear better than the normal ear. Okay, so there is difference. You can read it later. So these are the two tests which are available for hearing acuity, like visual acuity. Okay.